Greetings and welcome to this in-depth introduction and walkthrough of the Sire layout assembly system for Adobe InDesign and macOS. In this walkthrough, we'll cover the broader overarching concepts behind Sire, along with a detailed demonstration of Sire's features and capabilities. As this is meant to be a comprehensive tour of Sire's functionality, please be sure to use the timestamps in the description to navigate to any specific areas of interest. Sire's dynamic frameworks respond and adapt when elements are added or removed. This not only results in a more visually appealing and organic layout, it also results in a system that won't fall apart as content changes across requests. Sire is a tool built for the real world, a tool that understands scenarios and requests are dynamic and ever-changing. Sire is a tool that understands that conditions are not always ideal. Sire provides an unprecedented level of modularity and control, all at a user's fingertips. Sire is a tool designed to liberate designers from the drudgery and tedium of low-level tasks, while keeping them in control of creative. Elements are designed and reformatted by designers and assembled into layouts by Sire. Layouts produced by Sire are fully editable. This means you can still modify layouts after they've been assembled should you not be completely satisfied. Sire allows you to mitigate rush requests by overproducing deliverables that, while not initially requested, may be needed down the line, all without having to invest additional time and energy. We stand at the dawn of a new era of automation. An era where artificial intelligence poses an existential threat to institutions and industries the world over. But as designers and creative professionals, we also know that we're ideally equipped to thrive in this new world. Sire is a tool that allows designers to spend their time and effort where it matters. It is highly recommended that Sire be used on a multi-display or ultra-high resolution setup. For the purposes of this walkthrough, all screen captures were taken from a 4K display. In the interests of brevity, the video screen captures have been sped up in certain demonstrations. In essence, Sire consists of two main components: a powerful automation script developed by designers with over 15 years of marketing experience, and an intuitive user interface that allows end users to customize the variables in the script. In a traditional automation scheme, interaction is limited to processes within individual applications. Communication across separate applications and the operating system is exceedingly difficult. Sire harnesses the power of macOS's open scripting architecture to create a dynamic and intuitive automation engine that unifies interaction across Adobe Creative Cloud applications. Sire employs two main methods of operation. The first method is the on-demand assembly method. To further understand how the on-demand method works, we first need to break down the framework it utilizes. We'll call this the A1 framework. This framework is ubiquitous and versatile, and arguably the most common framework used in display advertising. Here we see several examples of advertisements that utilize the A1 framework. This framework consists of several floating regions, placed on top of an ambient background. Specifically, Sire allows for between 1 and 7 regions to be used in a layout. In this example, we can see how our elements can be designated as regions. If we modularize our elements as InDesign files, we can then attach multiple iterations of the element onto separate pages of the document. You can attach as many or as few variations as the element will allow. As a general rule, the more your deliverables vary in proportion, the more variations of each element should be developed for a successful production run. These modularized elements are then imported and assembled into layouts by Sire. In this example, we can see a general approximation of the assembly process. Sire will analyze each iteration of the imported artwork and determine which version will work best given the space in the framework. The second method of layout assembly is known as the reskin method. This method is recommended when the base creative does not meet the aforementioned criteria of the A1 framework. This method can also be beneficial if you're working with artwork that must maintain an overall brand, but information such as dates, colors, and featured images are variable. It is critical to note that the reskin method can only be used with pre-existing layouts. In this example, we can see that our artwork uses specifically cropped elements. We want to keep the overall structure of the design, but we'd like to switch out elements such as dates, images, and names. Sire's user interface allows us to easily specify the pre-existing layouts we'd like to modify, followed by the elements we'd like replaced, and finally the elements to replace them with. To utilize Sire's on-demand layout assembly features, we first need to create a job. Sire saves every job we create as a record that can be recalled or duplicated and used as a template for new jobs. This can save us from constantly having to re-enter values for every new job we create. From the main job screen, select the Create a New Job button. Enter the job's name. We then need to specify which folder to save the assembled InDesign files to. We can also attach a custom thumbnail to every job we create. This can help us further organize our jobs. Now let's click the Go button to enter the job details screen. As every job in Sire consists of individual files or deliverables, we also have the ability to set parameters for each individual deliverable as well. Here we see our job name, working destination folder, and deliverable destination folder locations. If we decide to also export our deliverables, the deliverable destination field allows us to specify which folder to export these files to. It's important to note that every file produced by Sire will be named according to the job name we specified earlier, along with the width and height dimensions of the layout. We also have the ability to select or enter a job category, and we can enter any notes specific to the job here as well. Now that we've entered the main job information, we can begin adding assets to Sire. Every job we produce in Sire should begin with an index or concept layout. This is the layout that our assembled layouts, or deliverables, will be based off of. In order to understand how Sire will arrange our assets on a layout, we need to access Sire's layout guide. In the layout guide window, enter the width and height dimensions of the corresponding index layout. In this example, our index layout is a 22 by 28 inch poster. When we click the View Layouts button, we're shown the available layouts for our specified dimensions. From here we can compare Sire's layouts with our index layout. By default, all available regions are activated when we generate a layout, but it's at the designer's discretion to decide which regions to deactivate or how to map assets to regions. We can take a granular approach and map individual assets to each region, or we can group multiple assets together and map them to fewer regions. Once we have a good idea of how we want to map our artwork, we can begin to parse our index layout into individual InDesign files. As was covered earlier in this walkthrough, one of the overall pillars of preparing assets for Sire is arranging our assets into various formats. Although in this example we're parsing out each individual asset manually, Sire provides features to further automate aspects of this process. More information is available in the Advanced Features section of this walkthrough. We can name our files whatever we like, but it's a good idea to have the corresponding region ID in the file name. Now that our assets have been saved as individual InDesign files, we can click on the region thumbnail to attach them to regions. Remember, Sire only accepts InDesign files as regions. It's important to understand that as a file is being loaded, Sire is analyzing its properties. These properties contain critical information Sire needs to assemble the layout. They do not, however, contain information related to the content of the file, only data related to file size, creation date, and dimensions. Once a file is successfully attached, we'll see the thumbnail of the artwork in the region file container. The region status drop-down menu will also change to active. If we decide to change our region file, we can simply click on the region thumbnail to select a new file. Now that all of our assets have been loaded into their corresponding regions, we can begin to create our deliverables. Begin by clicking the New button in the Deliverables section. A row with several new fields is added. We can begin setting our color mode, units, dimensions, lead, and margins. The Key Line field allows us to create a one-point stroke around the artwork. This may be beneficial for certain applications like web banners. The export field allows us to export our layout to various formats like PDF, JPEG, PNG, IDML, or even an InDesign package. We can also set our DPI and image quality here as well. The ID field allows us to attach further information to our file name. Every deliverables file name will consist of the overall job name, the layout dimensions, and any text we enter in the ID field. Next, we click on the arrow to enter the deliverable details section. The deliverable details page allows us to further refine parameters for each individual item in our job. It's important to note that these parameters are specific to the individual deliverable and won't affect the overall job, or any other deliverables in the job. By default, the assets we loaded into the region fields in the job details page are shown. It's also important to understand that we can override these settings if we choose to. You can deactivate regions, or load new artwork entirely, it's up to you. Here we see information pertaining to the items such as the file name, and the locations for working and exported files. More importantly, we can also see which layouts are available given our current region manifest and layout dimensions. Sire provides between 1 and 4 layout options depending on the combination of activated regions and layout dimensions. If we see a layout that we know won't work given our artwork, we can simply deactivate that layout to keep Sire from assembling it. Once you have a deliverable set to your satisfaction, you can return to the job details page and create a new deliverable, or duplicate the existing deliverable to use as a starting point. Let's say that we'd like to add a deliverable that doesn't use the exact same region manifest as the other deliverables in the job. We can deactivate that particular region, attach a completely different file, or we can add a new region altogether. As you toggle the regions, the layouts at the bottom will adjust to reflect. If a change is made from the deliverable details page, it will apply only to that deliverable, not the other deliverables in the job. If we decide to do this, the deliverable override icon will show. This is simply a quick indicator that this particular deliverable varies from the default region manifest. Now that we have our initial suite of deliverables set, we can begin to produce our layouts by clicking the Generate button. After we click Generate, a progress window will appear showing us the status and details of the assembly process. At this point the system is effectively on autopilot, so it's important that no other tasks or interaction be had with the system while layouts are being assembled. If we take a closer look at the progress window, we can see vital details relating to our job, like start time, status, amount of deliverables processed, any errors detected, and a cancel function in case we need to stop the assembly process. For the purposes of this walkthrough, the assembly process has been sped up significantly. Specifically, this demonstration was run on a system with an Intel Core 9900K processor and 64 GB of RAM. As a general rule, processing speed in Sire is heavily dependent on single-core processor performance. In a separate demonstration run of 150 layouts, the total processing time was a little under 8 minutes. Now that the job is finished processing, we can view our assembled layouts by clicking on the Open Folder Location button in the Progress window. If we open one of our produced working files, we can see that it's a standard InDesign file, with the main caveat being that it's composed entirely of linked files. These linked files can be edited like any other InDesign file, but it's important to note that any edits made to a linked asset will propagate throughout the entire job, since by default the layouts will all use the same linked files. This can be changed via the instance linked setting, which will be addressed later in this walkthrough. We can also navigate to our specified output folder, where we can view any files that were set to export. Sire includes a production log feature that contains a record of all jobs produced, along with vital information relating to the job, such as the amount of layouts processed, the date and time of processing, along with the total time and any errors encountered during the assembly. In this next example, we're going to apply Sire to a common industry scenario. Let's say you've generated your first run of deliverables, and you submitted them for approval to the appropriate stakeholders. Upon review, you receive a request to make revisions to your layouts, in this case, a copy change. How do we go about this? You could edit the linked file containing the content to be updated. Open each individual layout, update the link, save, export, and close. If this in itself becomes a tedious task, Sire has tools that can facilitate this process to create a more complete workflow solution. To access the Tools panel, we click on the Tools button from the main job screen. We see that a new window will open up. The Tools panel adds additional batch processing functionality that can allow you to revise deliverables after they've been initially generated. Specifically, we have options to batch update links, batch relink, and batch export. In this case, we're going to be using the update links and export features. After we've updated the appropriate linked file, we're going to select Add Files from the Tools window. Then we select the Update Links button. The files are automatically opened, updated, saved, and closed. If your linked files contain recursive links that you've also updated, we can invoke the Update Nested Links feature. Note that this feature will add additional processing time. After the deliverables have been updated to your satisfaction, you can use the batch export function to re-export the deliverables to a format of your choice. Select Export from the Batch Mode drop-down menu. Select the format, quality, and resolution settings as well as the export destination. If you select Package as the export format, Sire has the following options. Create Zip Archive allows you to create a zip archive of the packaged assets. Consolidate Package allows you to combine all of the InDesign files into a single folder. More importantly, it merges the links into a single folder and relinks to that new folder. This process takes a little longer but eliminates the redundancy and large folder sizes of individually packaging multiple InDesign files. It's important to note, the batch functions in the Tools panel are not specific to InDesign files produced by Sire. They can be applied to any InDesign document regardless of origin. In addition to on-demand layout assembly, Sire also allows us to automate the production of custom artwork. Specifically, artwork in designs that don't meet the criteria of the A1 framework we discussed earlier in this walkthrough. We'll call this method reskinning. The major point of difference between the reskinning and on-demand methods is that a layout must already exist in order for it to be reskinned. Moreover, the variable assets must be set up as InDesign links in order for them to be automatically swapped out. This is essentially a find and replace function for linked files in InDesign. This method can be beneficial if you're working with artwork that must maintain an overall brand, but information such as dates, colors, and featured images are variable and switched out often. In this example, we'll automatically swap out copy and images for a fictional boxing promotion. From the Sire Jobs screen, click on the Tools button. From the Batch Mode drop-down, select Relink. Select the InDesign files you'd like to be batch relinked. Next, specify a destination option. You can either save the files in place, or you can save to a different location. In this case, we're going to be saving the files to a new location. To attach a link, we can either browse manually, or we can directly enter a file path. To quickly grab a link's file path, we can locate the target link in the InDesign document, right-click on the link, select Copy Link Path, and paste it into the old link text field. After you finish setting the links, click Relink Selected Files. The Relink function in the Tools window also allows for bulk functions. After selecting the Bulk Import button, we will be prompted twice. The first prompt will ask the user to select the source files they wish to target for relinking. The second prompt will ask the user to specify the folder in which the files they wish to relink to are located. This is essentially an automation of InDesign's relink to folder function. Sire will then look for matching file names in the target folder and match them to the source files. The reskin method can also be leveraged to create reusable frameworks. In this example, we see our original boxing layouts being transformed into layouts for an automaker. Sire's productivity features are designed for users that have gained a familiarity with the system's core features and would like to explore ways to further expedite the assembly process. Sire employs two processing modes for layout assembly. The first is the default, or standard mode, in which the assembly process is manifested on screen. The second method is stealth mode, which does not show the assembly process. InDesign has the ability to execute processes without showing them on screen. By not having to render graphics on screen, a significant performance advantage can be observed, resulting in shorter processing times. In this demonstration, we can see that even though no processes are being rendered in the InDesign window, new files are in fact being produced. It's important to understand that while InDesign is generating layouts under stealth mode, this is not a background process. It is not recommended that the user attempt to use any other applications or processes while this is happening. In addition to the manual method of asset preparation, Sire provides users with additional methods for preparing assets. Sire comes with a set of scripts that can be run from inside of InDesign. In this example, we'll open our index artwork file. Using the standard selection tool, we can select any element, or groups of elements, we wish to be a part of a particular region. In this case, we want to save the selected elements as region A. After we select the elements, we look for the Sire Express Scripts folder in the InDesign Scripts panel, and double-click, Export Region A. The Export Region script will then automatically create a new InDesign file, sized to the selected elements, and save that file in a folder named Sire Assets, next to the InDesign file. The file is appropriately named after the index art file, along with a region identifier. We can do this for all of the regions we wish to import into Sire. Additionally, an alternate method of extracting assets can be accessed by placing elements onto specifically named layers in an InDesign document. If the layers are named after the desired corresponding regions, as seen in this example, we can run the Export Layers to Region script. The script will then export an individual file for every appropriately named layer into a Sire Assets folder next to the index document. As seen in the previous example, each file is named after the index file it was extracted from along with the specified region identifier. Sire includes functionality to batch import assets into your job. From either the Jobs or Deliverables detail screens, we can select the Batch Load button. We then browse to the folder containing the assets we wish to load. It is important to note that the individual files must contain the appropriate region identifier text string in the file name for them to be recognized and loaded into the correct slot. The general region options are located above the region thumbnails in both the job and deliverable detail screens. The following options are available. Batch import regions from file. As explained in the batch asset loading section, this feature will allow you to automatically extract and import regions from an appropriately layered and named InDesign file. If the assets appear on specifically labeled layers, they will be automatically extracted, saved to individual files, and then imported into Sire. The Edit Original option will open the asset file in InDesign for editing. The Refresh Region feature will refresh and reanalyze the active region. This feature should be used in case any asset is edited or modified after it has been imported into Sire. Regions can be refreshed all at once, or individually. The Set as Default Regions option will clear any region overrides in the job's deliverables, applying the job's current regions as defaults to all deliverables in the job. The Set Deliverable Regions as Default option can be found on the Deliverable Details screen and will do the opposite of the Set as Default Regions option. It will set the current deliverables regions as the default region set for the parent job and all of its deliverables. The Clear All Regions option will clear the job's default region set. Each individual region contains a specific set of options that will apply only to that region. Individual region options can be set for the default region set in the Job Details page, or individually in the Deliverable Details page. The Region Options button expands to give us the following options. Clear Region. This will clear the selected region. The Edit Original option will open the asset file in InDesign for editing. The Refresh Region feature will refresh and reanalyze the active region. Next to the Region Option button is Region Scaling. This feature allows you to control the scale at which the asset is imported when the layout is assembled. A region can be made smaller or larger by entering an appropriate value. The default being 100%. By default, all regions assembled into a layout will not overlap. However, if a custom region scaling value is used to enlarge a region, this may create an overlap. In this example, we'll modify a few of the default region scaling values. We're going to enlarge region A to 150%, while decreasing region C to 50%. It's important to note that Sire can assemble deliverables individually from the Deliverable Details page. Upon review of our assembled layout, we can see that by enlarging region A, we've created an overlap. If we want to control the order of how regions overlap, we can access the Region Layer Order option. The Region Layer Order option controls the stacking order of the layers each region will appear on, very similar to the z-index function in CSS. Next, we're going to cover a very important feature in Sire. By default, Sire will analyze the region's asset to determine which format of the asset to use for a given layout. This is indicated by Auto in the Region Index drop-down menu. This feature can be overridden and a specific page can be specified. The values in the Region Index drop-down correspond to the pages in the InDesign file loaded into the region. In this example, we see that Region C contains 5 pages, any of which can be selected from the Region Index drop-down. By default, Sire will use a common set of links to assemble a layout. This allows the user to efficiently and quickly update layouts by only having to update a common linked file, instead of editing the layout files individually. This means that if a given asset is modified, that change will be reflected in every layout that uses the asset. In most cases, this is the desired effect. In the event that a user would prefer to assign a set of links specific to a deliverable, the instance linking method can be activated in the Deliverable Details settings. This means that any deliverable with instance linking activated will have its own set of links that only apply to that particular deliverable. The bypass function allows the user to skip assembly of one or more deliverables in a job. This can be beneficial and time-saving if you prefer that only certain deliverables in a job be processed. To bypass a deliverable, simply click on the bypass button, after which it will turn red as a visual indicator that it will not be assembled. In this example, we'll generate our layouts with all but 2 of our deliverables deactivated. The override indicator is a visual alert that lets the user know that a deliverables region set differs from the default region set. In this example, we'll be modifying 2 of our deliverables so that their regions differ from the job's defaults. To cancel an override, you can simply click on the override button, after which it will turn gray. Sire includes bulk functionality that allows you to apply values and modifications to multiple deliverables at once. Select the deliverables you'd like to modify by clicking on the checkbox on the far right side of the Deliverables portal. By selecting the Options button next to the desired setting, you can enter a value that can be applied to every selected deliverable. The Deliverables portal also includes functionality to duplicate or delete multiple deliverables at once. Being able to duplicate deliverables can save substantial amounts of time by not requiring the user to re-enter settings or reload assets. We hope you've enjoyed this tour of the Sire layout automation system for Adobe InDesign, and we hope we've given you a good idea of how Sire could be leveraged to eliminate the tedious and repetitive aspects of your creative workflow. For more information, please be sure to visit us at harmon12.com/sire. Or email us at sire@harmon12.com.